think Malcolm has to shift his political ideology to the right?
He's betraying the LNP party members, the rank and file.
No other federation is as centralised as we are, and that wasn't the intention of the founders.
People who should be concerned about the future of Western civilisation, of Judeo-Christian culture, because ultimately that's what's at stake here.
I can tell you, by people voting One Nation, they got, or will get, abortion on demand in Queensland.
I don't think there is a scientific or sort of definition of life. I don't.
This is complete nonsense. People do not live their lives as the left would have us live it.
But in the 19th century, the dominant meaning of secular in Australia was not sort of the absence of religion.
You shouldn't rule the church out as an institution. Other institutions get to have their say.
A child does best, on average, when raised by biological married parents.
I will fight for Australia's rights, our freedoms, our way of life.
I'm an anti-feminist because I think it's oppressive, I think it's anti-male, I think it's anti-femininity.
Now, it may be a very weak Brexit, but I tell you what, Brexit of any kind and leaving those treaties as well.
That's the best ever interview. Michael Parkinson, you got nothing on this bloke.
G'day and welcome to Pellowe Talk. My name's Dave Pellowe, and this morning I'm talking to Caitlyn Roper from Collective Shout. Now, Collective Shout is an organisation that I'm going to let Caitlyn actually tell you a whole lot more about, but it attracts my attention because they're organising people to speak up against the issues that are going on in the community that are really needing attention. You may have seen their campaign against wicked campers, those gross billboards for misogyny and dehumanising women all over the nation. Doing great work there, but it's Christmas time, and I'm taking my kids, and obviously my wife more than me is going to the shops, and our kids are going through the shopping centres. Westfield Shopping Centres in particular has one tenant called Honey Birdette, and their shop windows are pretty much soft-core porn, and I don't want my daughter thinking that that is the standard for women's behaviour. So I'm glad that there's this company, Collective Shout, that's actually organising us to petition Westfield and to say, look, these people regularly breach the advertising guidelines, which is self-regulated, and self-regulation is great until it doesn't work. But here to tell us more about Collective Shout and then the campaign is Caitlyn. Good morning. How are you?
Hi, Dave. I'm good, thanks.
Excellent. Now, tell me about Collective Shout. How long's the organisation been around? Who started it, when and why?
So Collective Shout has been around for about 9 years. It was founded by a group of women from a range of backgrounds, including Belinda Tankard-Reist, who was writing a book on the sexualisation of girls, a couple of other activists, some psychologists in the field of eating disorders, and essentially they all came together seeing the issues that young girls are facing, the sexualisation, body image issues, and wanted to come together and actually do something about it at the start rather than just dealing with the fallout, treating the symptoms. So actually going and making a change there. So Collective Shout was founded, like I said, about 9 years ago. And in that time, we've run a series of high-profile campaigns against the objectification of women and the sexualisation of girls in media, advertising, popular culture.
Now, tell us about the campaign with Honey Birdette in particular. What exactly are they doing wrong? What brought them to your attention? Was it complaints from the public? And outline the details of why we should be concerned. What's going on there?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'll just give you a little bit of background into the current system of advertising regulation.
Yeah, please.
As we have a system of self-regulation, which means the industry regulates itself, and they've proven time and again that they are not up to the task. They cannot be trusted to self-regulate because it's just not working. We're seeing, first of all, a very weak code, a voluntary code. Companies can be in breach of the code and nothing happens. There's no obligation for them to comply with the ad standards rulings. basically they can go on doing what they want. So Honey Birdette, for example, has had 20 different ads found to be in breach by ad standards, yet here they are still going and nothing can really stop them. So the current system we have is really weak. It's a failed system, and Shout has been calling for major change in that area because it's just not working.
What kind of success has Collective Shout had in its 9 years? Are there any campaigns that we would be familiar with in having good outcomes?
Yeah, I don't even really know where to start. We've run so many campaigns over the years. I think one of our major campaigns, one of our major successes was in getting Coles to withdraw sexist, horny Lads Mag Zoo Weekly. And once we managed to get Coles to withdraw the magazine, in 2 weeks, the magazine actually folded. So that was one of our campaigns.
Wow.
That was a success.
You guys brought down Zoo Weekly.
Yes, that was us.
Well done. Well done. Yeah. Whenever I go into a servo or a supermarket and I see a girly mag, I turn it upside down and back to front.
I like that. No, we got a bit creative. I know of a few different supporters of Collective Shout who've got a bit creative in that way, taking the magazines, chucking them in the freezer or, somewhere else. Just, I like that. I like the creativity. But yeah, so other campaigns, we've had a lot. I'm just thinking this year, one of our major victories was against online shopping app Wish. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's quite a major shopping app.
Yeah, a couple of service stations, I think, sell their cards or advertise them.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so we called on them to stop selling child sex dolls, which you'd think...
What?
Yeah, so that was one of our major campaigns. You'd think you shouldn't...
How is that not obvious?
Well, we had to...
That's incredible. Are they... who buys those things, let alone who sells them? That's incredible that kind of thing's available in any Western civilized country. Surely that should be more illegal than a handgun. A child sex doll.
That's right. And even more than that, we found various body parts of child sex dolls and body parts intended for, obviously, for sexual use of women and children. Yeah, so I won't get into all of that. You can read more about that on our website. But that's one of our more recent victories that we've had.
And so Honey Birdette in particular, how's their campaign? So what I've seen is, girls in the skimpiest of lingerie, and not like a Target or a Myer catalogue, but, obviously designed for seduction and then the postures and everything else like that. Describe it in more accurate detail. What are the actual objections to how do they breach the standards that, for example, a Target or Myer underwear catalogue don't?
Well, I think it's entirely possible to advertise underwear or lingerie without demeaning or sexually objectifying women. That is possible. There's nothing inherently demeaning about a woman wearing underwear. But the Honey Birdette advertising, it's sexist, it's highly sexualized. It depicts women as bodies rather than fully human. It depicts even sometimes as parts of bodies. It accompanies their images with sleazy sexist slogans such as "ask for your candy" emblazoned over a woman's crotch. Another one, a more recent one, shows a woman sort of sexualized positioning with lingerie, of course, with the slogan "take a ride." So we're seeing women, not being treated as women, but as things, as sexual objects, as existing for men's use and entertainment. And there's a range of issues with that. We know that the sexual objectification of women has a range of harms associated with that. There's 2 decades worth of, data on this issue, finding that the objectification of women is linked to greater sexist attitudes and to greater tolerance of sexual violence against women, and that it's also linked to a diminished view of women's competence, morality, and humanity. So there are real implications, real-world consequences for women and girls in a world where this kind of sexualized and objectifying treatment of women is mundane every day, in the shopping centres all around. Something we need to be talking about. This is actually harmful. It's not about offence. It's often painted as an issue of offence, like if you don't like it, don't look. If you're offended,
Right.
I mean, who cares what I think or what someone else thinks or what my personal taste is? It's not about personal taste. It's about the objective harms to women and to children.
Yep. And so what are the arguments? Like if somebody just says to you, me, people who do object to these campaigns, oh, stop it, you're just being a wowser, stop with your moralising. Is there objective empirical data that you can show them about the harms of this content being displayed publicly, where it's really hard to not, it's not like it's on a TV where you can change the channel, but it's in a shopping centre where you have to, you can't avoid it until you see it. And I think the person who started this campaign, Kenneth Thor, tells a story about how he had to answer really tough questions that his kids weren't ready to know the answer to in a shopping centre. It's not that easy to just move. What are the answers to the "you're just being a wowser" question?
That is something that is said, that you're a wowser, you're moralising, prudes, that kind of thing. But it's used as a silencing tactic to not engage with legitimate criticisms of sexual exploitation of women. And it's used by people who have some sort of investment, financial or otherwise, in continuing the sexual objectification of women.
It does get echoed a lot by, I guess I would call them lemmings on Twitter and other social media places that clearly don't have a financial investment. They're just regurgitating, I guess, propaganda rhetoric that they've heard elsewhere in social media. Why are they? I mean, I guess this is asking for comment. You might not have data on it, but why do you think they are invested in opposing a campaign to reduce the objectification of women and sexualization of ladies?
I don't think there's a lot of critical thought going into this. I think it's just, as you said, kind of having these sound bites like, oh, wowzer, prude, moralising, what's your problem with women's bodies? I don't think there's a lot of critical thought going into these responses, because really it's quite clear that the objection to the sexual objectification of women is, there's a solid basis for that. We know that there's established harms from the sexual objectification of women and the sexualization of children. There's a lot of data, there's reports, global research on these things. So I think it's this idea of not wanting to, not wanting to look as though you care too much about these things, or you're not uptight, or you're really open-minded and cool with everything and you don't have a problem with sex. And that's the thing, when sex and sexual exploitation are, kind of condensed into one thing, there's a big difference between sex and the sexual objectification of women. And so that tactic of kind of fusing them as one thing, as if you're opposed to sexual objectification, you just hate sex and you just hate women's bodies. I have a woman's body,
Yeah. Now, what I'd like viewers to do is, if you agree that there should be standards and those standards should be adhered to, what I'm opposed to as a general rule of thumb is the government having to tell us how to suck eggs, how to be a good person and do good things. These advertisers shouldn't need the police state to come along with a big stick and tell them what to do. But you know what? Sometimes the free market needs to speak and is a better authority than government stepping in. And so we need consumers, who are the ultimate authority in a society, to speak to Westfield and say, when we come to your premises, we expect a family-safe environment. And if enough of us collectively shout that this is our value, this is the community standard, and that some of their tenants are going way past the line of good taste, then we ask them to take some action about it, because Honey Birdette themselves certainly don't care. So I'd encourage everybody, for a start, don't shop at Honey Birdette. Secondly, sign this petition. And let's get some voices there. Now, they want to get to 100,000 people by Christmas. I think we need to share this video, share this petition, and sign it ourselves. I've signed it, and we need to get 100,000 signatures on this by Christmas. 70,000 already is really impressive. But what we need to do is make sure we speak to Westfield. And look, if you're in a shopping centre, why not go to the customer information desk and put a personal complaint in there as well? You don't need to be rude about it or abrupt. You just need to say, hey, look, I've got young kids and I don't want them seeing the pornography that is the Honey Birdette front window. Like, whatever they want to do inside their store, that's different. I can choose not to take my kids in there. But I can't choose not to take my kids past their shop front window. The only way I can do that is to not come here anymore. So let's ask Westfield to do the right thing, seeing Honey Birdette are refusing to and are completely unaccountable otherwise. Caitlyn, thank you so much for your time and your work fighting for true respect for women.
Thanks for having me.
No worries, we'll catch you later. That was Caitlyn Roper from Collective Shout, and the links to that petition and the Collective Shout website will be beneath this video. This episode of Pellowe Talk was sponsored by the Pellowe Talk partners, who can't be boycotted. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and Instagram while you can, and subscribe to new videos and articles on my website davepellowe.com, where I'll never be deplatformed. Please make sure to like and share this video and leave your opinion in the comments section below.